Hi, folks. So, for social studies today, we are going to continue our look at Black History Month and looking at Black Americans who have helped shape our world and change our world. And we're going to read an article in Scholastic News that is titled "Kids Fought for Change." And you will find this article in your blue folder right here. And you'll notice on this picture, there's a little girl right here. And her name is Ayana Najuma. And this article is about her and what she did to make change in the world. Now, I want to first remind you about our book, our Martin Luther King Jr. book. And in that book, there was a section about something called sit-ins, a form of protest where protesters would go into whites-only establishments and would sit down at the counter and refuse to leave and ask to be served, ask to be, waited on and given a chance to purchase a meal. And usually they would get arrested and taken out of the restaurant. But it was their nonviolent way of protesting and saying that these segregation laws aren't okay. Well, Ayana Najuma was one of those protesters, and she actually participated in sit-ins. So we're going to read that article, and then I'm going to have you do an activity where you are going to, hot off the press, you're going to say how you're going to be a change maker. So you're going to take this sheet out along with this one. And this one says, I'm a change maker. And you're going to draw a picture about how you're going to create change in the world. All right, so we'll get to that assignment in just a minute. For now, we're going to read the article. If you want to read it on your own, you can. And then when you're finished, you can go ahead and start on this activity. But if you want to read it along with me, that's what we'll do right now. All right. Kids fought for change. And there's Ayana at the first sit-in. On a hot August day in 1958, 7-year-old Ayana Najuma and her friends went into a restaurant in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. The kids sat down and tried to order food, but the waitress ignored them. They waited for hours, but no one would serve them. Why wouldn't the restaurant serve these kids? To answer that question, you need to know what some parts of our country were like not that long ago. Here's a picture of Ayana Najuma today. Kept apart. In the 1950s, Black people and white people were segregated in some parts of the U.S. This was especially common in the South. Racist laws prevented African Americans from going to the same schools and living in the same neighborhoods as white people. Black people also couldn't eat in the same restaurants as white people. Now, I want you to notice that there are some bolded words in this article: segregated, racist, and integrated. And we can find the meaning of those words right here. Let's look up segregated. Segregated is to be kept apart. Racist is related to treating people cruelly or unfairly because of their skin color. Racism has a long history in the U.S., starting about 400 years ago. Hundreds of thousands of Africans were brought to America and forced to work as slaves. By the early 1800s, slavery was illegal in northern states, but the practice continued in the South for decades. Even after slavery was banned across the nation in 1865, Black Americans were treated unfairly. Segregation was one example of this mistreatment. Ayana and her friends were African American. They were young. Segregation was wrong. They decided to take action. It was a time when many Americans were fighting against racism. Their protests became known as the Civil Rights Movement. A peaceful protest. With some help from adults, Ayana and a group of kids held a protest called a sit-in. They went into a white restaurant and sat at the counter. No one took their order, but they stayed until the restaurant closed. The next day, the kids went back to the restaurant, but the waitress still wouldn't serve them. Soon, things grew tense. Some white customers yelled at the kids and threw ketchup on them. The kids stayed calm. During the third day, they finally got good news. The restaurant's owner agreed to start serving black customers. It was a big deal, Ayana recently told Scholastic News. It was a slam dunk to be able to sit there and have a hamburger and Coke. Ayana and her friends weren't done. For 6 years, they took part in more sit-ins. One by one, the restaurants in their area became integrated. Oh, let's find out what that word means. Integrated, including people of all races. One by one, the restaurants in their area became integrated. Black people and white people could eat side by side. Even though I was little, my voice was just as important as everyone else's voice, says Ayana. Wow, what a great story. So this happened in 1958. So that was, let's see, almost 60 years, over 60 years ago. Ayana made some big changes in her community by just standing up for what she believed in. Now it's your chance to think about how you can be a change maker in our world today. So here is the worksheet I want you to look at. So step number 1, think of a change you want to see in the world. Step number 2, what can you do to make that change? Step number 3, draw a picture of how you will make change happen. All right. Draw a picture. Let me know what your dreams are, what you want to change. I can't wait to see what you put down, and I can't wait to see your picture.